find happening with this conversation is people who are emotionally detached intellectualizing it. And that's, to me, improper. Because everybody that wants to paint this as, well, it's just business. Well, what would you do in that decrepit stadium? Well, what? There's no fans there. To me, are missing the most important point. The love. Sports, yes, is business, and we all understand that. I'm not naive to that, of course. I make my paycheck, I make my salary, I make my living because there's an industry financially built around sports. But why what I say matters to some people, why how I feel is worthy of somebody's paycheck is because of love. Because people have a love of sports. And what has happened in Oakland is that love has been manipulated, distorted, that loyalty has been chopped up and thrown into a chum bucket, and the people that can manage it don't care. That really bothers me. Am I an A's fan? No. I grew up in New York. But when this stuff happens, it really bothers me because it is an exploitation of somebody's passion. It's an exploitation of somebody's loyalty. It's an exploitation of somebody's love. And that bothers me. In this case, if you just looked at the facade of, well, crumbling ballpark, nobody's at the games, the team stinks, they haven't been able to get a stadium in forever. Vegas is this hot new market that has a football team that sells out, a hockey team that everybody's goo-goo gaga over, tons of people flying in constantly for events. They'll build you a stadium or give you a handout for the stadium. Wouldn't you do it as well? And that's not the point. Because the people that think of it through that lens aren't coming at it from the lens of, well, what if you were an A's fan? Everybody that looks at it that way is not an A's fan. So it doesn't matter. Is my life different? Is most people's lives different if the A's just play in a different ballpark? No. No. Most people's lives are not changed. A team might have the same exact uniforms that say athletics on it. Green, yellow, A's. Seeing in a new ballpark with fans, and everything seems to be fine because it's a new ballpark and there's fans, and it doesn't seem like they're walking through a graveyard every single day. And most people just from the outside go, well, that's a smart business decision. That's better. That's a better solution. But that's not a better solution. Not when you have to take people's hearts and trash them to get there. And that is what has happened here. John Fisher owns the A's. How did he have the money to buy a professional baseball franchise? He must have been so smart. He must have been so entrepreneurial. He must have been so enterprising. How can somebody afford to buy a professional sports franchise unless they had earned it? Oh, well, Mommy and Daddy Fisher started the gap. So that's how Johnny got his money. His parents started the gap. Now, the rest of us will be lucky to inherit maybe like an outboard motorboat from our parents. Maybe there's a timeshare in Orlando we might get, if you're lucky. If not, maybe you'll get the fine china. I think that's my inheritance. Maybe I'll get the silverware from my great-grandparents. Johnny got the gap. Johnny got the gap. So he didn't earn any of this. Mommy and Daddy gave him the gap. He bought the A's. And when Oakland Municipality didn't play his game, he tanked it. He purposefully tanked it. And he took 55 years of A's fans' loyalty and said, I don't care. I don't care that there's fans here that care about this team. I don't care about the fans that showed up when the team was no good. I don't care about the fans that have been here far longer than I've been here. I don't care. I want to make an easier buck. John Kincaid is a sports talk radio host in Philadelphia, has done work here on CBS Sports Radio, has filled in for this show before. John and I have a good conversation, a good relationship, rather. He asked me on Twitter yesterday, DA, if you were in that situation, you would do the same thing. It's a better business deal. And I told John, no. And I'm telling you this right now, I wouldn't make that decision. Because the A's have a chance to matter in a way that they'll never matter in Las Vegas. And if you're already a billionaire because mommy and daddy gave you the gap, what is a few more tens of millions of dollars? It would matter more to me if I've never really earned anything to be important, to be a civic hero, to do something like save baseball in the Bay Area. You see, the A's are the last team standing. The Warriors fled to downtown San Francisco. The Raiders fled to Las Vegas, and you'll be the third team into Vegas, the third team. The A's will never matter as much as the Knights because the Knights were first, and the Knights are homegrown, and the Knights are an expansion team and organic, and that's their squad. And you'll never mean as much as football because it's football. Or has anybody watched the Sacramento Kings games of the playoffs? You can be that to Oakland. Has anybody been watching what has happened in San Diego with an owner that has said, we're here and we're spending? Have you noticed what has happened? He's a hero. The most popular person for the Padres isn't Tatis or Machado. It's not Soto. It's their owner. They have a gleaming, beautiful downtown ballpark and an owner that spends a ton of money. The A's could be that. Wouldn't you rather own that team? A beautiful downtown ballpark in Oakland and be a hero in a town where you are the only professional team rather than just another capitalistic carpetbagger that goes in for the third team in town? There is so much more importance if you did this in Oakland. So much more. So, no, I wouldn't do it. And I wouldn't do it not only because financially, guess what? There's a ton of money in Oakland. Has anybody noticed real estate prices in Oakland? Like, this is such a misnomer. Oh, there's no money in Oakland. There's crime. There's this. There's that. Go try to buy a house in Oakland. If you get a house in Oakland for anything less than 1.2, it's a shack. There's money all over the place in Oakland. It's all Silicon Valley tech. Now, of course, there's a blue-collar element as well. But you want corporate money, tech money, billionaire money? It's all there. It's all there. And don't ever, ever, ever use this take, which I've seen on social and heard as well. Well, I mean, nobody cares anyway in Oakland. Worst take ever. Before the Warriors were the Splash Brother dynasty, they sold out every game anyway. They stunk and Oracle was banged out every night for a mediocre team. They went 17 years and made one postseason berth between the 90s and 2000s. They still sold out. When the A's had a good team and not a toilet bowl of a ballpark, they were top 5 in attendance. These are just stats, okay? This is just fact. And sometimes fact is hard. But people see a decrepit Coliseum and an empty ballpark and assume nobody cares about the A's. Guess what? 1989, 5th in the league in attendance. 1990, 3rd in attendance. 1991, 4th in attendance. 1992, 5th in attendance. This was all before the Raiders came back, built disgusting Mount Davis in center field, and it became a football stadium, terrible for baseball. when it was still a baseball park first and they had a good team, they were one of the most attended teams in all baseball. So don't say nobody shows up. They don't show up for a pig pen where possums defecate all over the press box and sewage pipes burst. No, they don't show up for that. But who would? Holding A's fans accountable for not showing up to a dump is completely unfair. I hear sports talkers do this all the time. Well, why does anybody go to the games? You wouldn't either. Nobody wants to go to a broken flea market tent to watch their baseball team. They were never given a good reason. And as soon as the team had stars, they sold them off, sold them off, sold them off, sold them off. There's money there, there's loyalty there, and you are the only game in town now. You really could be rooted in Oakland. But instead what happened was the greatest scam that baseball or professional sports has seen in years. Ownership said, we don't want to be here anymore because we don't want to play the politics of Bay Area or California stadium building, and we're going to get a free ballpark in Las Vegas. So guess what? We're going to have a terrible team. We will make it impossible to go to the ballpark. The stadium's going to be a disaster. The team's going to be awful. We'll be so bad nobody will go. And then we will sell it as apathy, which is what the A's ownership and front office has done. They have convinced everybody that it is simple apathy. Well, see? How could we survive here? Nobody cares. And that's a lie. That is a falsehood. People care. They just won't go to a toilet bowl to watch a last place team. It's been the greatest scam ever foisted. Well, see, apparently nobody cares. So we have to go to Las Vegas. In fact, this week, the A's administration was set to meet with the city of Oakland this week. They were going to have a summit to hammer out something. And the A's ownership never really wanted to do it. So they pulled the plug before they had to do it and said, well, nobody goes. We have to move. We got this deal. They have never acted in good faith. It's been a complete scam. And Rob Manfred and the owners have stood by and watched it happen. And this pisses me off because they took people's loyalty for 55 years. They trampled it and they didn't care. And they completely misled the public like it had to happen because nobody worries about the A's around here. And that's not true. It's not true. And that's what makes me so mad. It's all not true. People cared. They got scammed. And baseball led the scam. The A's were a top 5 most profitable team in baseball last year. Top 5. All that revenue that they got. Yankees, Dodgers, Cubs. The A's? The A's. The A's were the top 5 most profitable. What did they do with all that cash? Put it towards the ballpark? Put it towards the team? Put it towards the fans? No, none, nothing. They stole it. They stole the money. Baseball has foisted this upon the fans. It's your fault. They're stealing the money. It makes me so beyond angry because it's a theft. It's a crime happening in front of us, and it's going to happen, and nobody's going to stop it. And then people intellectualize, well, they got to move. I mean, it's a better business deal. Ignoring all of the realities around it and never thinking about it through the eyes of an A's fan whose dad or mom or grandmother or grandfather had poured their hearts and their money into that team. If you were a fan in your family of a team for 55 years, then suddenly they move the team, my guess is you wouldn't say, well, it's a better business deal. They should do that. No way. It's so intellectually dishonest. But people do it because it doesn't matter to them. Well, it matters to me, and it matters to the A's fans, and it matters to the Bay Area, and everybody got scammed.